couple weeks ago, my latest documentary film debuted with Business Insider. The story, which looks at garlic production in the United States, racked up over 250,000 views in its first day. And since then has crossed 2 million. In this video, I'm going to break down how I filmed the garlic story so you have a detailed roadmap to achieve similar success. I will tell you how I got hired for this project, what gear and strategies I used to film it, and how, from a storytelling and distribution standpoint, Insider has come to dominate the short documentary landscape. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Austin Meyer. I'm a National Geographic Explorer, documentary filmmaker, and on this channel I share the field-tested skills, mindsets, and lessons that have helped me on my journey as a documentary filmmaker. Everything that I share in today's video is informed by the past 5 years of working with Insider. And not only as a freelancer. Back in 2020 and 2021, I was on staff at Insider, pitching stories, filming, producing, writing scripts, editing, and reading pitches from freelancers. So I have a very unique perspective on them, on their editorial process and their business model, which all combine to make them an award-winning industry leader in short docs. My goal today is to help you work with them as a freelancer. Or if you're not interested in that, at least learn lessons from them that you can apply to your own work. To begin, let's start with how to get hired. The first time that I worked with Business Insider was in 2019. The way I connected with them was through a platform that at the time was called Story Hunter, but is now called Glimmer. Glimmer is an online marketplace that helps connect freelance creatives like us with brands, agencies, and media companies like Insider. To be clear, this is not sponsored at all. It's just how I first got hired, and I thought it would be helpful for you to know about. So on the creator side of Glimmer, you build your portfolio page, which includes your skills, work samples, the languages you speak, your desired day rate, and probably most important, your location. On the brand side of Glimmer, organizations make posts about the kind of talent they're looking to hire and why. An outlet like Insider might post a request for pitches that goes out to a global audience, like this one here. Insider says they are looking for visual pitches for our environmental web series, Worldwide Waste. And then this little globe icon means that everyone on the platform can see it. But the more common use case for brands like Insider is to request freelance services in a specific geographic area. And if you are in that area, you will get an email notification asking you to apply to the job. This was my in at Insider. In 2019, I got an email ping that Insider was looking for a doc-style shooter for a story on the Kincaid fire recovery. The post said that they were looking for a DP with a great eye and sense of story to spend 2 days covering Geyserville in Sonoma County as they recover from the Kincaid fire. Well, I lived in Sonoma County, so I applied. I first explained my publishing credits so the producer knew that I was experienced, and then I spent time in a second paragraph to detail why the story was close to my heart. I even told him that I had to evacuate my family home because of that fire. I said, I believe I possess not only the technical and storytelling skills to do the job, but the personal connection and access to the story that will really make it come alive. An email and a phone call later, I got the job. I filmed the story with a producer who flew out. I passed off the footage. They edited, and eventually the story came out across socials, getting over 500,000 views.
That was my room. That was my bed. My grandma had that bed since before I was born. I don't even like being here right now. I don't like looking at it.
Now here's a tip for all the freelancers out there. Once you have a successful project with a client, keep that relationship hot. Pitch your next story to them sooner rather than later. You've already done the hard part of building an initial relationship and showing that you can be trusted. Now you gotta stay on it. For me, I knew I was in a literal hotspot where fires were in the news. I knew this particular producer who had come out from New York was very interested in fires. So over the next couple years, I pitched and ended up working on multiple fire-related stories in California for Insider. Eventually in 2020, I filmed a fire-related story that was such breaking news, they asked me if I could take on the edit for time's sake. This was very surprising because most editorial outlets, including Insider, never ask video journalists to edit. But once I said yes and showcased that skill set, they brought me on staff for a 6-month contract to cover the crazy news cycle that was 2020. I covered COVID, Black Lives Matter, the presidential election, attacks on the US Capitol, and more. This is the 5-year relationship that led me to getting hired to film this most recent story on garlic. At this point, Insider knows that I live in the San Francisco Bay Area. They know me, they trust me. And if they have a story in this general area, I get an email. So the takeaway lessons for everyone watching are, first, get your name out there. One way to do this is to use freelance marketplaces like Glimmer. Get on there, build your portfolio page, and keep an eye out for opportunities. There isn't a ton on there, and if you live in a competitive geographic area, jobs are hard to land, but it's worth trying. It's free. There's literally no reason to not sign up. Lesson 2, make your case for why you are the best person to film on stories. In 2019, for me, that meant making more of a personal case than a technical filmmaking one. Lesson 3, crush the shoot. Make the most of your opportunity. And lesson 4, keep that relationship hot. Pitch the next story, keep them posted on where you're living, and commit to slowly building that relationship with a media outlet over the course of years. Now let's talk about the production. Before I started filming, Insider's producers in New York lined everything up for me. They walked me through the story concept, got me access, sent me a shot list, a style guide, a list of questions to ask our main subject, and the camera specs. Pretty much all Insider stories are shot in 23.978 frames per second in 1080p with color baked in. There's no 4K, no log, and that's because this team cranks out documentaries from all over the world, and they don't have the time for massive file transfers or color correcting, which underscores a point in video journalism pieces. Timeliness is a factor, and as a video journalist, you have to understand that sometimes speed is more important than the shot looking gorgeous. The 20-minute garlic documentary is made mainly from footage I shot over the course of 3 days. I spent 2 days filming alone at the largest garlic production factory in the country. And I spent 1 day at a garlic festival with producer Olivia Nemec, who wrote the story script and who came out from New York. For both shoots, I opted for a very minimal run and gun kit. FX6, 24-105 f4, Sennheiser 8060 shotgun mic with the Sony UWP wireless lav mic system, and Cause 11D microphones. At the factory, I spent the first day filming with the company's executive vice president. I had him walk me in chronological order through how the garlic gets processed. In each building, I filmed him talking directly to camera, like he was giving the audience a tour.
Because garlic is a root crop, sometimes you're going to have some staining all around the skins, and it's our job to make it give that perfect appearance that you're used to at the market. You're going to have the largest bulbs coming here on the left lanes, and as we go to the middle lanes, we'll have the middle-sized bulbs, and on the far right, we're going to have the smallest bulbs that we're going to pack for our customers.
And then filmed him going through the building pretending I wasn't there for some B-roll. Then we sat down for an interview, which I filmed on the Sigma 50mm prime lens. This was a tricky setup because we had midday sun, very limited options for quiet spaces, and I was alone. I opted for this location because we had some shade that I could put the subject in, light bouncing off this building that acted as a key light, and then these interesting leading lines that made for a nice composition. I don't love the colors in the shot, and I probably overexposed a little bit, but hey, like I said, moving fast, shooting alone, color baked in, you do the best you can. For this interview, I used a lav mic with a Rycoat overcover to block some of the wind. Then I sat next to the camera and conducted the interview. I want to give a quick shout out to my girlfriend Zoe, who dared me to ask this question. Is there a particular type of garlic that's used to ward off vampires, or is that... Which actually ended up as the first quote in the entire documentary.
As you can see, there's not a vampire to be seen.
So day one of filming was all about making the best use of the vice president's time, because that was really the only chance we had to film with him. The next day of filming was all about B-roll, grabbing all the wides, mediums, and tights of the entire garlic production process. One trick that I used here, which was inspired by my time as an editor at Insider and trying to interpret all this footage coming in from freelancers in the field, was I shot clips explaining to the editor what I was about to film. I knew an editor in New York wouldn't know what machines we're looking at or what this random building was. So before I went into that building, I would look into the lens and record a clip of me telling the editor, the whole next sequence we're gonna be in the grading room. Right now we're in the heating area, which is like garlic process comes from the field, so that they would understand where in the process we were. During this day of B-roll, I filmed mostly on the tripod. Machines, workers, large quantities of food, movement. The material I was filming was very visually engaging, so I knew that if I kept my shots still and chose interesting compositions, we would have compelling footage to work with. I spent all day on this B-roll because I knew that these shots would carry the story. So it was all about grabbing those wides, mediums, and tights for the whole process, which cut together like this.
And this facility churns out 100,000 pounds of roasted garlic every week, accounting for 5% of the company's sales.
We're gonna have a two-sided convection oven, heat up the garlic to about 250 degrees. You can kind of see through a layer of garlic.
Finally, the last day of production was at the Garlic Festival, where our goal was to just get outside of the factory environment and connect this little vegetable to how it's used in cooking and its role in bringing community together. On this shoot, I had an insider producer with me to conduct interviews, so I was able to set up 2 cameras and focus more on the visuals. But still, for each interview, I only had about 5 to 10 minutes to find a location and get set up. On this particular shot, even with the time crunch, I experimented with adding some negative fill to get more dimension on his face. It didn't make too much of a difference, but it was worth a try. And then we also did some character follow-alongs to get some sound bites that could break up the story's narration.
To prep before thousands of festival goers start arriving at noon.
No frying, we have no customers. Everything's gotta be fresh, fresh, fresh.
When you're a freelance video journalist working for national media outlets, your job is pretty much done after you finish filming. You are not editing. You will be asked to send your footage back to them ASAP using some file sharing service. Insider uses a service called Massive for this, which is the best file sharing platform that I've used. And from there, the editor and producer work to script and edit the story. Which brings me to why Insider is, in my opinion, dominating the short documentary landscape, and the 3 lessons all of us can learn from them. The first lesson is that they understand where attention is and how to attract it. If you look at most editorial outlets who have tried to do short documentaries, they haven't prioritized social media as a platform for distribution. In my opinion, that has been a mistake. Many have spent years with videos behind paywalls uploaded to their own terrible video players, also that they could control the advertising dollars. This has resulted in very few people watching the videos, no committed audience, and dwindling ad dollars. Insider, on the other hand, looked at where the attention was, aka social media, and went all in on it. They not only use YouTube and Facebook as their main platforms for distribution, but they create for those platforms. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, think about it. You are in a completely different frame of mind when you're scrolling on the front page of the New York Times versus scrolling on YouTube versus scrolling on Netflix. And all of us as video creators need to understand that audience psychology and create in a way that meets audiences where they are. Insider does this brilliantly. They play the YouTube game and thus have built a massive following on YouTube. I've been in those creative meetings at Insider. They have someone on staff whose main responsibility is video thumbnails. They agonize over titles. They produce versions of a story without captions for YouTube and with captions for Facebook based on the data they get indicating that people are more likely to watch videos on Facebook with the sound off. And they also structure stories in a way that's optimized for social media. When I was on staff, the amount of drafts that we would go through to nail the first 30 seconds of a video, which we called the A block, was wild. Dozens of drafts of the script. A bunch of takes to find the most visually captivating footage. And why? Because Insider realizes that they're not competing with the New York Times for views. They're on YouTube. They're competing with Mr. Beast for views. You have to grab people fast, and they do. If you get a chance, watch the first minute of that garlic story. It's a beautifully scripted and edited A block from Olivia Nemec and Seth Stein. There's a reason that Insider doesn't put out a story with some dramatic, mysterious, long opening shot. Because people are on YouTube. not opting into a Netflix documentary. The second lesson from Insider's dominance is that series build committed fans. Insider occasionally covers breaking news and current events, but most of their time, energy, and documentary power goes towards pieces that fit into a few different series they've created. Our garlic story was for the series called Big Business. The tagline for that series is an inside look at how companies solve logistical challenges at a spectacular scale. Other series include Risky Business, which examines how certain industries and jobs operate at a high human cost as workers face extremely hazardous, unjust, and unregulated conditions. And Still Standing, which is about industries and individuals staying afloat despite the odds. So why are series helpful? Well, they take a successful concept and standardize it in a way that can scale from both a production and distribution standpoint. If all big business stories have the same structure and visual language, it makes it easier for them to send style guides to freelancers anywhere in the world who can match it. It makes it easier for editors to know how to edit. This all increases the speed at which these stories are created. And it also makes it easier for audiences to return for the next episode, knowing that they will get something they enjoy. And the data proves it. My work gets more views with Insider than any other outlet by far. You might not want to make repeatable stories, but I encourage you to think about what parts of your business or creative process can be standardized. Or maybe just think about what it would mean for you to develop a series of your own. And the third lesson, and this is one I've really come to appreciate about Insider, is that you can play the social media game and do great reporting at the same time. Yes, on the surface, this story I shot was about how garlic is produced. We chose a familiar food item that people don't know much about and showed a very visual step-by-step process. That doesn't seem too complicated, does it? It's pretty scroll friendly. But if you watch the story closely, you might realize something else. Between the shots of production lines and garlic bulbs, we also dig into the history of garlic. We talk about the influx of Chinese imported garlic, which bankrupt 3/4 of US producers. We talk about trade wars, tariffs, and new technology that is impacting agriculture. In doing so, Insider has developed a great model where it wraps detailed reporting on current events, policy, and the issues in a very scroll-worthy, eye-popping wrapper. This is something that I'm really taking a lesson from and trying to take to heart in my own practice. And that's that if we're producing stories for social platforms, stylistically, it's not all or nothing. We don't have to go hide out in the woods creating abstract art or wonky policy briefs. And we also don't have to go full-on TikTok clickbait. There's a middle ground, one that leverages the platforms and the psychology of the audience there, while also including deeply thoughtful, contemplative, or reported elements. Thanks for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this breakdown, you might also enjoy this breakdown of my National Geographic short documentary, Fred the Turkey. I'll see you next week. Until then, go out and tell some stories.